Welcome back, guys. So this is the 5th video of the Guardian Scraper series, and so we're scraping Guardian.com and we had reached thus far, and we were in our discover links function. So we had used a GoQuery package to create a document from the response, and now we're going to run some operations on the document. So here we're checking if document is not equal to nil, and what we'll say is document.find. Okay, so this find function, and we'll find a. So all the links, as you know, in HTML are with a, so it has created it for us in an HTML document, which we can use Golang to go over. So here we'll run for each of these values, we run a function, and in that function we'll take a variable called I, which will be int, and s, which will be a pointer to goQuery.selection. So I know this will look confusing, but in just this line you'll understand what's happening with this, basically. So here S helps us to make a selection, a GoQuery selection, right? So for example, you can select an attribute like href, which will basically have the link that you need, right? And that link you're going to store in a variable called res, and the error, we'll use a blank character for the error. And in our found URLs, basically the variable that we have to return from this function, the discover links. So discover links basically is discovering all the links for the link that you're passing here, right? And for the found URLs, you're going to append found URLs, res. So found URLs basically is going to append the links that you're finding, right? This res, which is basically referring href, which is basically a part of a tag here in the HTML document. And HTML document you got by using the GoQuery package. So all of that makes sense now. Now there was one issue with our crawl function. So let's go back to our crawl function. So what's happening here is that in the crawl function, a lot of simultaneous requests might take place, and that might end up overloading Guardian.com, and that might end up getting you blocked from that website. So what you can do is we can use something called as a semaphore. It's a concept in Golang concurrency. If you haven't heard about semaphores, you need to go and check it out. It basically controls as to how many channels can be working at the same time, how many processes can be working at the same time, right? So it basically keeps a control on the number of simultaneous processes. So we're going to do that with the help of tokens. So tokens basically in our case will be a variable, which will be basically a channel. And 5 means that at any point of time 5 threads maximum will be running for our crawl function, not more than that. So here we'll say struct. So this is again semaphore, right? Semaphore, if you haven't heard about it, you need to go check it out. It's a straightforward concept. It's basically limiting the number of requests that we're sending to get request function. All right, so now that's sorted. Our crawl function is sorted, our get request function is sorted, discover links function is sorted, func main was already completed. Now we have to work on our resolve relative links function. The resolve relative links function takes a link and a base URL, the links that we are ranging over out here. So we'll take a ring href, which will be string, and we'll take a base URL, which will again be a string. It's going to return two things. It will return a boolean, which we are using in this variable called OK, and it's going to return a string for this correct link, right? So it's going to return a string, and here we're going to call a function called check relative, which basically helps us to check relative paths. So first, before we go any further in our resolve relative links function, let's work on our check relative function. So we'll say func check relative. So it's going to accept a couple of parameters. It's going to accept href, which will be string, and base URL, which will again be string, completely consistent with our function call. It returns a string. And here we will say if strings. So here we're using the strings package, and we're using the function has prefix in the strings package. And in our href, if the prefix is this, then we're going to perform something, right? So here we'll say return fmt.sprintf, which is used to format your strings, %s, and here we'll say base URL and href. So basically %s and %s, these values are then substituted by base URL and href together, and sprintf basically helps you to create this complete string. So this is what is returned from this check relative function, which is the string. All right. Else you return just the href. So if that href link you're sending here has this prefix, then you have to take the base URL, which is guardian.com / that link. Otherwise the link itself is enough. All right, so that's what check relative does. Now, so this check relative function is returning a string, which we'll hold in this variable called result href. And now we'll parse our result href and our base URL at the same time. So we'll say base parse, which is a variable, and a blank character for the error, URL dot parse. Now to make this code more effective, you can handle all of these errors where I'm saying these blank characters. You can handle all of these errors if you want to use it in production, but right now, since I'm just demonstrating it to you, I'm putting a blank character there. So here you'll say base URL, and you'll say result parse, comma blank character, URL dot parse result href. Okay. Yeah, so I see all these spelling mistakes. You can also fix them if you want to quickly, so that you don't get errors later on. All right, so we're coming back to our resolve relative links function. Okay, so here we'll check if our base parse is not equal to nil and our result parse is not equal to nil. Then in that case, we'll check base parse dot host is equal to result parse dot host, and we'll return true. Otherwise, we'll return false. And here outside, if this condition is not met, we'll return false, comma, an empty string. So we'll get all these resolve relative links. We'll get that incorrect link, and it will either be an empty string, because here we're returning an empty string, right, and with false. So if it's an empty string, then if it's not an empty string, then you just add that in your found URLs. All right, so we have completed all of our functions. You have check relative, resolve relative links, we have our semaphore tokens channel, and then we have our func main, our get request, discover links. All of these functions are intact. Now what you can do it, if you want, you can just go through the entire code once, so that you can find if there are any issues. Otherwise what we'll do is we'll actually go ahead and run this code and deal with the errors one by one. So we'll say go run main.go. There will be a lot of errors, so if you're a developer, don't be scared of errors. You'll always get a lot of errors, and I usually keep all the errors to the end so that I get them all of them one by one, and I can solve them one by one. And with Golang, you don't have to worry about errors too much, because Golang gives you a very clear kind of information about what the error is. So we'll say go run main.go, and here we get all of these errors. So let's start going through them one by one. Okay, so the first error says syntax non-declaration statement outside function body. 13, line number 13. So let's go line 13. Okay, so here I should have written var, and what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to copy and paste all the other user agents so that there are more user agents to select randomly from. And like I said, I'll leave this code in GitHub and you can copy and paste from there. Okay, so the second error is line 28, which is out here. Oh, it was line 28, sorry. So what I'll do is I'll paste them later on, otherwise I'll have issues fixing my errors. So here you have to take this bracket and put it here. So this is my mistake. Discover links function. And the next error is line 34. Line 34. So I think this is connected to this, so this error should go away, hopefully. And the next error is line number 123. Let's go to 123, see what's the issue there. Okay, so here what I've not done is I should have, after this go func is over, out here, you have to pass link and paste domain to this routine. All right. So now let's try running this. There could be more errors. Let's see what happens. Yeah, so it says line 14, expected new line 14. Okay, yeah, I have to, now I can copy and paste those here, I think. And this is giving an error because at the end you need to have a comma even at the last value so that it works properly. And now when we run it, okay, so an entire list of new errors have come up. So let's go through them one by one again. Okay, so let's go through them one by one. So it says line 25, too many arguments to return. Line 25, return. Okay, that's because we have not written string here, which is the return type of this function, so that's why it's saying too many items to return. And then we have line number 51. All right, so here you don't need to have an else for this error because we don't have a response yet, so that's why it's given an error that it's not defined. So we'll say if there's an error, do this, otherwise just proceed further. All right, perfect. And then you have line 54. Okay, out here, what is it saying? It's saying random user agent used as value. So we've used random user agent. Okay, so earlier we were not being able to return a string, so that's why if we were using it as a value, it was giving a problem. Now hopefully the error should go away automatically. Line 91, response is not defined. So I can tell you this is because of this small little walrus symbol here. It's not equal to its walrus, so now it will be defined. And everything should be all right now. And now line number 124. So here too many variables in range. So range, this one, we've deleted a couple of lines, that's why 194 is now 122. So it's saying range has too many things. So that's because we've not used the channel. How to output this channel to list. All right, and now hopefully it should work. Now let's see if there are any more errors. Oh no, it started scraping, so amazing. So it's scraping all of those links, it's putting out all of those links for us. And now it'll keep going. Basically it's an infinite loop, because it'll keep finding these links, it'll keep adding them to your to the work list, it'll keep taking those links and then going to those links, discovering those links, and then putting them again in the work list, and again. So that's why we have to stop, otherwise it'll just keep scraping all day long. So I hope you learned a lot in this video. You learned channels and routines and semaphores. You worked with all of those things, and Go query, right? Creating it into document. So there's a lot of things here that have been covered, like structs and slices also have been covered. For loops, range. A lot of things have been covered here in this video. So I hope you learned a lot from this series. Thanks a lot for watching, and do subscribe to this channel, so that because we'll be creating such amazing content, more content. And if you're new to this channel, by the way, we have hundreds of videos on this channel with Golang. So thanks a lot for watching, and see you in the next episode.